1954 tiếng nổ tới bộc phát hiệu lệnh tổng công kích.
Well, there is a whole lot more activity atop Victory Monument at 7 o'clock in the morning than I anticipated. Erected in 2004, this statue at 400 tons is the largest bronze statue in Vietnam, and carved in the socialist realism style. This depicts the values of communism, including victorious soldiers carrying a child. And yes, the machine guns in the back. Hi, I'm Matt, and welcome to another edition of Borders on Budgets. On this episode, we are in Dien Bien Phu, Vietnam, where this city lays proud claim to a triumphant victory 65 years ago on the battlefield. Halt! Tundra vegetation. Surprisingly works out here.
Say, this torpedo tube is...
I don't know if it's the Tet celebration or if it's just because I brought up the camera, but this city is a whole lot more noisier than I first anticipated at 7 o'clock in the morning. Organizers for the Tet Festival appear to be laying out a life-size game board of the Chinese game called Go. Hi ladies, how much?
Vietnam Tết.
Fantastic. I knew coming to Vietnam during Tet would have its advantages. Free admission to a war site. With trenches and barbed wire, the French defended A1 Hill with tactics more synonymous with the First World War, fought 40 years earlier. A1 Hill, now in the middle of Dien Bien Phu, is the symbolic site for the victorious Viet Minh, the communist and guerrilla unit that defeated the colonial French in a 57-day battle that ended on May the 7th, 1954. Even though Dien Bien Phu came at the end of what was 8 years of fighting, the First Indochina War, the French were not supposed to lose because of their superior ammunition and fighting ability conventionally. To overcome the deficiency of munitions and armaments, the Viet Minh struck the French at their airstrip, thereby eventually leaving the French under siege in Dien Bien Phu, which at the time was only a valley and none of the city that is behind the present-day A1 Hill. What also aided the Viet Minh were their superior numbers of troops who knew the lay of the land, plus their motivation for fighting for a liberated homeland.
Ân một, cái thằng này làm ta giật cả mình.
Kiểu ráng không dậy đó. Thử hồi sự ra thử kể mấy cái nha.
500 cán bộ chiến sĩ của chúng ta đã mãi mãi nằm lại nơi đây. Còn đối với quân đội Pháp thì chúng ta đã bắt sống và tiêu diệt được 825 quân của họ trên mảnh đồi cứ điểm A1 này.
This crater came as a result of 1 ton of mines that were detonated after the Viet Minh tunneled their way under A1 Hill. It was detonated on May the 6th, 1954, and a day later, the French said, "C'est tout."
Now, how do you feel about how do you feel the view here?
How do I feel about being at Dien Bien Phu? It was the right thing to do for the Vietnamese to eventually seek their own independence, even if it had to come from a military perspective. When put into context regarding global affairs after the Second World War, the First Indochina War to drive the French out of Southeast Asia was almost natural. As the colonial power Great Britain was leaving the Middle East, India and Pakistan in the late 1940s. The Soviets detonated their first atomic bomb in 1949, and in the same year, Mao Zedong and the Communists took control of China. And then following the Korean conflict that pitted North Korea and China against South Korea and the United Nations-backed coalition, that was fought to a bloody stalemate after 3 years in 1953. So, in 1954, the conditions were right for the Viet Minh to eventually defeat the French, kicking them out and setting the way for independence. The toll for Vietnamese independence came with a heavy cost. During those 57 days of battle in the Dien Bien Phu Valley, more than 10,000 Viet Minh troops were killed. At the subsequent Geneva Accord Peace Conference, where it was determined that the French would leave all of Indochina, Vietnam did gain its independence, though it was split at the 17th latitude between North Vietnam, run by the Communists, and South Vietnam, that was backed by the Western nations. This has been another edition of Borders on Budgets. A reminder, Borders on Budgets, long-distance hikes, slices of life, not a lot of money. From the military cemetery in Dien Bien Phu during the holiday of Tet, this has been another edition of Borders on Budgets. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Dien Bien Phu.
Which one means avalanche? Oh, the locals are friendly during Tet.
Hello. Hello.
Well, over a snack of fried shrimp and vegetable balls. This is a 5,000 dong, or about 25 cents. Let me quickly explain as to where Dien Bien Phu is, which is in the northwest corner of Vietnam. It's about 8 hours in 3 directions to Luang Prabang and Lao, 8 hours to Sapa, which is the high mountainous village closest to the Chinese border, and 8 hours to the country's capital of Hanoi. So if you are passing through this neck of the woods, yes, it is recommended to get out, stretch your legs, spend about a day or two, and do take in the military sites of the Battle of Dien Bien Phu. And behind me is the actual museum itself that contains numerous armaments and photographs. So, did you like this episode? That's great. Thank you very much. Help Borders on Budgets grow. Hit the subscribe button below, and don't forget to share this video with your friends who would like to know a little bit more about the history of Vietnam and Indochina. We'll see you on the next episode.